Hello and welcome to Further Together, Enriching Relationships, Creating a Better Future. Your friends here, Kudzie and Priscilla. It's good to be back again.
It is good to be back on yet another episode on Further Together. We are so excited to be on this platform again tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight, I'm looking forward to learning and I'm looking forward to be enriched as we have this discussion.
Yeah, we're getting deeper now, and I want to be honest, that the topic that we're going to share tonight is one which I do struggle with personally.
Yeah.
So
do I.
Yes, it's a struggle. It's one thing that I do struggle with because I'm somebody who is quite talkative. I'm hyperactive when it comes to talking. So it's not an easy thing. And I time and again, I keep on reminding myself. I keep on going back to the notes so that I adjust myself.
Yes, it's an area that I'm working on myself. It's just good to know where you are, to know how far you are yet to go. And you know what? This is an area where we are not experts. We are not perfect in it at all. We are working to improving.
We are work under progress.
Yes, we are work under progress. And
I should have worn a T-shirt written under construction, especially when you're talking about this topic. We are really under construction.
Yes. You know what? And our prayer is that, God help us. Let's do all the best that we can to improve in our listening, because, listening is part of one way of communicating. You talk, you listen. There's no way that you can be talking and never listen. So it is a way of communicating. And by us being good listeners, we are able to improve on the quality of our relationships. So you may be there, you're married. This is a crucial topic. You may have children. You may have, if you're just living in a normal world, you need the listening skills. And you know what? God help us to explore that
in
tonight.
His wisdom. Yes, God in His wisdom, He gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we could hear probably twice and
as much.
Speak just once. So it's good for us to know that in God's it was God's wisdom. That's why He gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth.
And then He says in His word that be quick to listen and slow to speak. But yet sometimes we do the exact opposite. We want to rush to speak. We want to rush to interrupt. And then we become slow to listen.
Yes, Mr. Madzigatiri, how are you? It's good to see you. How is South Africa? We pray that all is well with you. As a few days ago, there were riots in South Africa, and it's by God's grace that you guys are there. So we pray that God will protect you. Mr. Chichena, how are you? It's good to see you. My daddy, my father-in-law. The temperatures are quite high here. It's around 30 degrees. It's so hot. It's so hot. We've been complaining about the heat, about the rain some few days ago, and now the heat is too much. So yes,
we can't manage. We can't bear with it.
Yes, it's if we put the fan on, then it will make noise, which will get into the which will interrupt the audio. So that's why I just have to switch off all these fans so that we can speak to you and also give our attention to you. And tonight's topic, we're speaking about becoming a good listener.
A better listener.
Yes.
Becoming a better whatever stage you find yourself today. Our prayer is that after this broadcast, you will become a better listener, the same as what we desire as well. I think we mentioned in our previous episodes that listening communicates that you support your spouse. It communicates that you value your spouse and that you respect your spouse. So we are coming tonight to share some of the tips on becoming a better listener. And the tip number 1, we are getting straight into it, is that, pay attention. Pay attention.
Yes, pay attention. Go ahead, baby.
Yes, I think one of the key things when listening is to be focused on your spouse. Many times we are distracted. There's so many distractions, the issues of mobile phones, where sometimes my husband has to remind me that, listen, I'm talking, like we are having a dialogue.
Yes.
Who is this other person that is texting you such that you are now forsaking the conversation that we are having, and then you're having to pay attention to someone who's not physically present?
And I don't know with other people, but you know, sometimes you're having a conversation and I'm deeply pouring myself, and you see somebody who is on the phone and the person goes like
smiling.
And I'm thinking, what I'm talking about, it's a serious issue. I don't expect you to smile because I'm pouring I'm in tears, and somebody's on their phone and
they're smiling.
And they're smiling. And I'm thinking.
And then sometimes you're like, babe, what are you smiling at? You know, I'm being serious here, but you're smiling.
So attention is needed, and the use of mobile phones is one subject that will come and talk about the issue of phobbing. That you know, even in other relationships, parents and children relationships. You know, children, they are complaining. Of late, we saw some kids somewhere in Europe making a demonstration that our parents are not listening to us. They are spending more of their time on mobile phones. Even when we're talking to them, they are not listening. And these young children under the age of 9, they were making a demonstration with placards. Wow. So this is how serious this issue is, that we all want to be listened to. So when you're listening, number one, pay attention.
Pay attention, and you know, let it be active. Let it be active. Be active in the process when you're paying attention, and you know, looking out for things like body language. You know, one of the things that you want or you love is to find that your spouse is listening with your eyes. They're looking at you.
Definitely. Yes, I like to be somebody to look at me when they're talking. I grew up with old parents. You know, my mom is quite an old mother. So whenever you are speaking to her, she would say, "Look at me. If you look at me, I can tell whether you are lying or telling the truth." So by just looking at somebody, you are concentrating on them, and I can tell by the eyes. Even sometimes you may not smile with your mouth, but the way you open your eyes, it shows that you are happy. If it's something that is a little bit, you know, touching, I can see by the way your eyes are. When I'm looking at you, I can see your facial expression. So if I'm talking and you are looking on the other side, you know, body language, sometimes, you know, the highest percentage of what we say is more on verbal is less. It's more on body language. And sometimes you see that you're talking to somebody and you see them folding their arms. It's like, oh, you finished talking, I need to go. I'm not here. So pay attention to the way you're communicating.
And the key, what you're saying right now, is that, you know, listen with your eyes. It may not be an easy thing for many people or for some people, but one of the greatest gifts that we can give to our spouses is to listen with our eyes, because sometimes it is very hard to not pay attention when you're looking at the person in their eyes.
That's true.
You know, it can be hard. So let's pay attention and look at our spouses in the eyes. Not saying that it's something that you can do every time and any time. Sometimes you're driving in the car, you may not be able to look at your spouse when you're talking, but when it warrants, you know, those deep conversations, sit down, look at each other in the eyes. If phones will get in the way, get rid of phones, get rid of whatever kind of distraction that you can think of. And another key thing on paying attention is that, you know, listening is not about waiting for your turn. Like I'm waiting for my time. Let my time come. So I'm listening so that I can speak later.
As if it's you're competing to be on the stage that the other person finished. So now it's my time to show. Let me show up. Let me present and represent.
So let's listen with our eyes and let's be actively involved in the process. The point number 2 that we have to becoming a better listener is to provide silence. Provide silence.
Now, this is a two-edged tool. And Priscilla knows that. I've heard people who come to confront me at times. And when they come and confront me and they're saying things that I'm running short of words, because I know that anytime I'm going to open my mouth, I'll curse somebody, I'll send somebody to hell. So I'm silent, but the type of look that I look at you is different from the look that I give when I'm listening and I am encoding the information that they are giving me. I'm listening attentively. This one is a look that I'm telling you that, you know what? don't go there. I don't want to give you the words. This look is enough for you. So
we don't mean that
yes,
kind of
so
silence.
that kind of silence, let's put it aside, but it's a silence whereby you are listening, you are digesting, it's getting into you, you are encoding, you the words are coming in. So is it in biology, in science, where we talk about animals that they will eat and they later on chew the cud? So you have time, you know, it's coming in. Normally, I have seen that when you go into lectures or when you're in a church, the pastor is preaching, not making noise, but he's teaching. You see people, they are silent and they're enjoying that.
So provide silence. That is key. And something that is very difficult to do. Like we mentioned before, I think last week, that we find ourselves trapped in wanting to interrupt our spouses. You know, you just want to cut in. And sometimes you want to offer advice, but really providing silence, just providing silence in a positive way, not silence that you're communicating that, you know, like silence, and yet you're communicating, showing negative actions. You know, but silence where you are intentional, intentional about hearing what your spouse has to say. That kind of silence is powerful. And you're not interrupting them, you're not offering advice, but you're like, babe, I'm with you, and I want to understand. And one of the things that, you know, we have learned over the years is that when you can provide silence, you can allow your spouse to be vulnerable.
Yes. They'll speak more.
They'll speak more
because they know that I'm on this ground where somebody is listening to me. And that's why you find out that when people go in the closest to pray, they pour their heart to God because they are knowing that He is listening. So it's me to speak whilst He's listening. And we know that God answers prayer, but God doesn't answer whilst you are talking and He's talking and you're talking and He's talking. No, He gives us that time where we're talking to Him in our closets, and God is saying, speak, my son,
I'm listening. So let's provide silence where possible. Just be silent. Don't offer advice unless I say that, you know what, babe, I need your advice in this. You know, the greatest that you can give is that listening ear, and just to provide silence and allow your spouse to be vulnerable. The minute you cut through, the minute you interrupt, they're not going to tell you all that you can, all that you wanted to say. You know, we've seen this many times, and I will share one of the things that happened with us when we were in Zimbabwe. I don't know if you definitely remember anyway, but we were in Zimbabwe for holiday, and I remember my husband said, we agreed, and we said I wasn't going to the showgrounds
to go. You were not going out with the kids.
To the
showground, which is like a fun fair in the UK.
It's an annual event. And prior to that, we've always gone with my husband and the kids. We've gone to that event, and on one particular day, I think it was the last day of the event, you know, you told me that, you know what, we are not going tonight, we are not going today, just stay home, relax, you're not feeling well. And I remember I just sat back and I relaxed. But one woman came to me and said, one of our relatives, like an aunt, she told me, like, wake up, let's take the children to this event, let's go and and have fun with the children. And foolishly, I didn't think about it. I didn't think about the fact that me and you had agreed that I was not going to, we were not going.
You had said you were not feeling well.
Yes, I had said I was not feeling well. But, you know, foolishly, I rose and I took the kids and we went to the showgrounds. But on our way, something happened. The money that he had given me to keep was in the back, and the money was stolen. And I remember calling him. At that moment, I didn't think about it. I remember just calling him and saying, babe, you know, the money that I had in the wallet, it has been stolen. And you were like, stolen?
From where?
From where? Where are you? I left you home. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. But, you know, we left, somebody came, and then we went to the showgrounds and whatsoever. And I remember now when we were trying to resolve that issue, you were trying to explain to me how you felt about the whole situation. But because I did not provide you with silence. Each time you wanted to speak about it, I would just interrupt and I would say, oh, I'm sorry because of this. I'm sorry. You know, if it's about the money, this is, you know, I can give the money back. And I never provided the silence to say, how does this make you feel? And what exactly
is
are
paining
you upset about?
Where is the pain in all this? So from there, she could have understood that the pain wasn't about the money. The pain was about the agreement that I agreed with you. You told me that you were not feeling well, so we said you're not going anywhere. Now you are getting up and to go somewhere without even calling me, with all the children. And it's a place whereby, you know, most children, sometimes a number of children get lost.
They get lost.
So I'm thinking, okay, had it been that you went there and you're calling me that, oh yeah, so and so is missing here, how are we going to take it? So to her, it was, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry about the money. I'm sorry. And to me, it's not about the money.
Yeah, because I was thinking, oh my God, this is a huge amount of money. Why was I taking the money? I never knew. But the fact and the point there is that, you know what, provide silence, which is something that I didn't do. And I kept on defending myself on the wrong things. You weren't concerned about the money. Your concern was the fact that I didn't tell you that, I broke the agreement, basically. So provide silence where best possible. So the first point was pay attention. And the second point was provide silence. And the third is reflect back on what your spouse has said.
Now, this is quite tricky, because if you do not do it in a proper manner, in counseling and in coaching, we call it parroting, whereby somebody have said something and you want to reflect. You go word by word on what they have said in quest of trying to make them think that you have understood them. But by so doing, you are provoking them. You're like a kid who it's like echoing into them. So you're like a kid who say, when you say, come here, the kid will look at you and say, come here. I said, don't do that. The kid will say, don't do that. It makes the other person to be angry. But you have to learn to paraphrase what they are saying.
What they're saying. Yes, paraphrasing what your spouse has said helps them to understand that you are on the same page. Like, you understand me. You know, the story that I just mentioned earlier, had I reflected back, I think later on, when we now sat after months or years, you know, and then you were like, let's come back to that issue. Like, this issue is unresolved because we've been talking about it, but it seems you're not understanding me. You're not understanding what I was upset about, you know, from the outset. And it was now when you were telling me to reflect back on what you were saying that you realized that, you know, we were on totally different pages. Yes. What I thought you meant was not what you meant. So reflecting back is about, you know, reflecting back what your spouse has said. Do you understand what your spouse has said? So you can tell them that, oh, from what I understand, you are saying A, B, C, D, E. So it allows them to now say that, you know what, no, you're getting me wrong. This is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this. So if they need to explain further, then they can explain further. So it's a key tool to making sure that you understand your spouse.
Yes, and to show that you have to repeat the note. You are repeating the note, and whilst you're doing that, it has to be in first person, because you have to understand that what you are repeating to them is what you have understood. It might not be exactly what they are saying. So from my understanding, you are saying this. Then let them, you know, repeat the note. Tell you that that's exactly what you're saying. Now, one of the things that I used to say is, when somebody say whatever they say, I mean somebody, Priscilla, whenever she finishes talking, I would say, oh, so you mean this? And I was dismissive, I was conclusive. Dismissive to the extent that some of the issues I would look at it and say, oh, so you're angry about that? Is this something to be angry
about?
Is it a big, my friend?
It's not a big thing.
There are big matters that people should be angry about, not this one. So already to start with, I did not understand her.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'm already dismissing all her facts, even without understanding them.
And instead of acknowledging difference, acknowledge that the other person may feel differently from the way that you're feeling about any matter, about any given situation. They may feel different. And I think it's okay, because we are different individuals. And I think as well, on reflecting back, we may find ourselves defending or attacking. Yep. Because your spouse, you have said something. So instead of me reflecting back on what you've said, I'll start defending myself. If I were you, or probably I would have done it better, and you're attacking the person. Yeah. When really,
my language, if I were you.
That is language. If I were you, no, you're not me. Don't defend and don't attack, because all you're supposed to do is reflect back. Yeah. Make sure you understand what your spouse is saying and not attack them or start defending them. Yes. You will get your chance, by the way, because what we are talking about is listening. Talking, many people find it easy, but listening is a skill that you need to constantly work on. So let's learn to listen. And when we are done listening, then we can contribute later on.
Yes, then point number 4 is ask open-ended question.
Yeah.
And this one, to me, it comes handy. I've been working in the media industry for a long time, so I'm not one person who asks those yes and no questions. Open-ended questions that allow somebody to explain themselves. Not, are you angry? Yes, if you say I'm angry, yes or no. Yeah. But let's get into the feeling. How do you feel? How are you feeling? Then let the person explain that. Yes. So such questions, they allow the person to explain themselves. They allow them also they give them that understanding that, the person still wants to hear more from me. Yeah. That's why in journalism, we use those ones. Yeah. Why? Because we want to allow the person to know that I'm still needed here. The journalist still wants to get more information out of me. You want to extract. It's different from, did you come here for this? It's a yes and no. So if I say no, then that's end of it. Are you happy? It's yes or no. If I say yes, that's all right. If I say no, that's all right. So we keep on repeating such questions, which closes the other person, which makes the other person feel like, well, he is not very much interested. You have to remember that when we were dating, when we started meeting each other, we used these open-ended questions, and that's why we could spend the whole day together, having conversation with each other. Because I'm not asking you, are you going home? Yes. Were you late? No. How was it's boring. Yes. So it's different from what do you think about this? Then the person will start to explain how they think, they explain how they feel. They are giving emotion into it.
So these open-ended questions, it allows for people to go deeper into conversations. If you want your relationship to improve, you've got to learn to ask those open-ended questions. Ask more. Let your spouse give you more information. And like what Kudzie is saying, is allowing the person, showing the person that you're interested in what they're saying. Because sometimes someone is speaking to you, you don't ask them anything, or you ask them a one-word question. The person can feel that you're not interested. You're not interested. It becomes, you're not interested in me. Why? Because you're not interested in hearing what I have to say.
It could be what is challenging me, what is bothering me, or what is making me happy. So whichever the case, you are not interested, and then the person will take it personally. Now there's a contribution, is it?
Yes, it is.
Can you read it for me?
Ashkod says, listen to what your partner is saying, not to what you think they are saying. That one is key. Because when we come into conversation, sometimes we've got our own preconceived ideas. We have our own perceptions. So the minute your spouse starts speaking to you, sometimes we are judging based on the conversations that we've heard before. We are judging based on what has happened before, past experiences.
I know you.
This is something that I've done for years.
Yes.
I know before he even lands, I know what he's about to say. So I'm not listening to what they are saying, but I'm listening to what I think. Like, this is it. This is Kudzie. I know Kudzie, and this is it.
And I remember one of the days Priscilla sent me to the grocery store, and prior to that, I had a meeting with another person. So I took all the minutes of the meeting, then I sent the minutes. So I'm now driving towards the grocery store. So I called her, and she said, "Oh, before you tell me about the meeting that you had."
Yeah.
And she said a very long thing. So I gave her the ear, and when she finished, I did what I did, and I said to her, "You know what? I did not call you for that. I had called you to ask you that on the grocery that you gave me, there are no quantities. You just said eggs, milk, this, how many?" So sometimes it's, "Oh, I know you. You are calling because you have just finished a meeting and I have seen the notes. So you are calling to tell me about this. So before you tell me about that, let me tell you about this." No, hang on. Listen, why have I called? If I'm done now, you can come in. Or rather, ask me, what is it that you want to talk about? If I highlight to you, then you say, for now, do you mind to hang on? Can we speak when you come home or after dinner? Do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for me. So you did not just shoot my idea. To start with, number one, you are not just saying to me, hang on, but you are telling me, hold on your conversation. We are scheduling your conversation on this time. It's different from, baby, I'm not interested in talking now. Can we talk later? Later can be tomorrow. Later can be next year. And it will be hard for other people to start those conversations. It's different from saying, "You know what? I cannot speak now. Do you mind if we speak tomorrow morning, or just before we prepare to go out? Or do you mind if we can speak tonight after dinner?" Now, there is a timetable. So after dinner, I'm getting ready. But if it is, let's speak later. There's
later
on the calendar. There's no day called later.
Now we say, mommy, but you were saying later. Now
it's the later you're talking about.
Yes. Because sometimes we then keep postponing it. I'll say later. We'll talk later, Mwanangu. And then it was like, mommy, now is the later. You can't keep saying later. So let's put even the time to the later that we are talking about. But that is so profound. Thank you for your contribution. Let's listen to what our spouses are saying and not come in with these preconceived ideas of what we think our spouses are saying. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to acquire information and to understand what our spouses are saying. And when we understand what our spouses are saying, we are able to strengthen connections. You cannot get deeper with somebody that you don't understand. That is standard. So if you want to understand, if you want to improve the quality of your relationship, you've got to listen, understand, and deepen your connection.
And that's one thing that God has been saying to his people many times. It's hear me, listen, hear me, listen, hear this, hear me, O Israel. God calls for attention. And we are many gods. We want that attention. We want somebody to listen to me. And I always say this, and I'm repeating it again, that if you do not give your spouse the ears to hear, she or he will go to look for somebody else who will listen to them.
Tell us about Eve. What happened to Eve in the garden?
Oh, my. I feel like preaching now. When Adam became absent, and Eve was lonely,
and gave her ear.
Eve gave her ears to the snake, and the snake
entered.
So during those absence, during those moments where somebody wants to speak or somebody needs to hear, if we do not speak, then there's a danger.
That is so profound. Listening to your spouse communicates that you celebrate them.
I love you.
And people want to go where they are celebrated. It communicates that I'm interested in you. I'm your number one fan. I can listen to you at whatever time, at whatever cost. So let us celebrate our spouses by listening to them.
No matter how good you are at multitasking, when it comes to deeper conversation, please do not multitask. give them that time. You will multitask
He's
doing
talking
other
to
things
me.
later on, but before once you know that they have something which is more deeper to them, give them all your attention.
Yep.
Don't multitask, please. It's a recipe for disaster. I know many people say I know it.
So guys, this is us for tonight. Do pay attention. These are part of the tips that we have for becoming a better listener. So pay attention. Give your spouse your focused attention. Be actively attentive to what your spouse has to say. Point number 2, providing silence. Provide your spouse with the silence they need to allow them to be vulnerable. And point number 3, reflect back on what your spouse has said. Make sure you've understood what your spouse has said. And the last but not the least is to ask open-ended questions so that you can further your dialogue.
What more shall we say apart from saying thank you so much for giving us your precious possession, which is your time. Time permitting, God willing, we'll meet again next week on the same platform. If you have any question, kindly send us a message. It could be a direct message to our inbox. Or
Nelson is asking for homework. Okay.
Homework, go on and implement.
Yes. These steps. Yep.
Yes, go ahead.
Go and have a conversation. Go and start a conversation with your spouse. Go and ask your spouse about anything that is troubling them in the here and the now. What is it that is concerning you now? And as they are having a conversation with you, make sure you're paying attention by listening with your eyes, making sure you're looking at your spouse as they speak. You are actively involved. You've got your body language in place. You're communicating with your spouse attentively. The second thing, make sure you provide silence. Try as much not to give them the advice. Try not to interrupt them as they are speaking.
Don't just look.
But don't look with that, like, oh, kind of thing. Finish because I want to also speak. The third thing, you are going to reflect back on what your spouse has said to make sure that you've understood them. And lastly, ask open-ended questions if there's anything that you'd want to further in your dialogue. So that is your homework. And thank you for that, Nelson.
For me and my beautiful wife, we are signing out till we meet again. God bless you. Yes, Zatopera. Yes, we are done for tonight.
Zatopera. Good night. We love you all. Thank you for joining.